Thank you for joining us. Guess we don't need to go through introductions. I was expecting that. Oh, there's Jim Macker.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Thank you for being here remotely. And for those of you who don't know Jim, Jim is a retired commercial lender who provided lending services to multiple banks in and around Columbia County, the most recent of which was Hudson City Savings and Hudson River Bank and Trust. During part of his tenure with that bank, he was on the board of CEDC and actually was a member of the board that hired Mike Tucker as our president and CEO.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Our objective is to clone Mike Tucker. We need to identify the talented person who's going to succeed that talented person as president and CEO of the CEDC. We need to identify that person and get that person onboarded and get him or her started on the next chapter in CEDC's proud legacy. I don't need to underscore, but I will, the confidentiality, and please refrain, as I don't know you will, from sharing any details of our conversations with family, friends, or anyone else outside this room. What happens at the search committee stays at the search committee, and we appreciate that. I wanted to get started by just going around the room and asking you what you think the key questions are that we need to ask ourselves. I'm not looking for answers today, but I am looking for what questions are on your mind as we embark on this search for the next president and CEO. So I'm going to ask each of you to throw out a question or two that's on your mind, and Rick Cummings, if I may start with you.
Boy, brother. I don't know if this is a question or not, but we've spent, what, a year looking for an assistant? And I know that I've been looking for people for over a year, and we have a real challenge ahead of us, which is, I think it's fortuitous that we're starting this process as soon as we are starting. Yeah, I don't know where to begin, frankly, on the search. Sometimes part of me thinks it's luck, but luck is not a course of action. So here we are. So I don't know that moves the ball forward, but that's all I got.
Mike, key question?
The key question is where the organization sees itself today and where it sees itself going forward, recognizing that we have several sources of funding. It's kind of a mosaic, patchwork quilt of how we raise the funds necessary to employ the staff and initiate programs, so that that will by necessity change. We had the benefit of ARPA money for the last couple of years, and I think redefining as a board the direction of the organization will enable you then to identify the skill sets that will be necessary to run the organization, and then in that process restructure the staff itself to pick up some of the things that each of us does that might not be in the wheelhouse of a new CEO. We don't have a controller because I kind of act as the controller. We don't have, Andy and I work really well on, I'm doing preliminary legal work because I'm aware that he, can then polish it off and get it done for us. So I think that, to a certain degree, we have to identify what what are the things that you won't find in the next CEO?
Okay.
And then how to build around it.
Andy?
I think the challenge is gonna be finding somebody with both the experience and the energy and the knowledge of what makes Columbia County unique in order to serve the organization.
Sarah?
Sure, I think when I hear back to when Mike took over the CEDC, the reason why perhaps he was successful is because he was a visionary about it. Because they gave him, an option, change everything or just fail, and get rid of the CEDC. And so you had a vision, which then everyone who worked here, they all got together and followed that vision. So I think kind of what Andy said, finding someone who's knowledgeable about who's in this community, who the players are, mixed with some sort of vision for the future, I think that's the real challenge, because starting at a high level like that, I think the amount of respect you get from the different organizations, is really vital. So I don't know how you manage to pull that off, but hopefully, mentoring someone in that capacity, someone that's willing to be mentored somewhat in that capacity is also really important.
Right.
I mean, just hearing some of the commentary so far, I think we'll hit on the key things I would say. I mean, it's a version of what does the CEDC want to be in the next 10 years. To that comment, I think Mike has successfully been able to be many different things and make the organization many different things. But I do wonder if refinement is appropriate in some way, in finding the right person that knows the community, but also understands their vision of refinement of the CEDC is going to be important. And I don't know that we can continue being so many different things in so many different ways without somebody like Mike that's built those relationships to show that level of success in a variety of different programs. Or maybe somebody can be mentored into that, right? I mean, I think the key question for me becomes like, what is the core of the CEDC, and do we focus on that? And finding somebody that can do that well and see if they can also do the other things.
Or go from that core and recreate.
Yeah.
I think we need to ask ourselves how flexible we can be in terms of salary, in terms of benefits, in terms of remote work. Is that a possibility?
Four-letter word for me.
In terms of whether that person is an employee versus a consultant. I know how difficult it's going to be to find somebody who's qualified, and I think we need to be as flexible as we can.
Yeah, I think that everyone's probably hit on more or less, but I think, you can look at someone's CV, but really like taking Mike and looking at his skill sets, like the kind of different buckets, and then kind of assigning like how important is this, what's the most important thing, what's less important, maybe the people skills and the community outreach is more important, or maybe the knowledge of economic development or ties to Albany, or like just getting into like what are the skill sets that Mike brings, and kind of rating them. And then are we willing to actively recruit and work with the recruiter? Are we willing to pay a relocation fee? Those might be important things. If you're looking at someone in New York City, their salary will be higher. If you find someone who like has great experience but is in the Midwest, you might find someone who you could offer a salary that would be competitive for where they are. And so I don't know. Does it need to be someone who's been in New York and part of that machine? Just asking those questions.
I think the real issue is, I've tried never to get paid more than the county controller or the county attorney, since we get our principal funding from those two sources. And I think, if you take my consulting fee and back out, 24% in benefits, I am able to stay under that, and they're getting higher benefits because they're county employees. Difficulty is the higher you go, the more you have to proportionately, on an equitable basis, raise everyone else. Because then you're in a situation where, do you have the funding to do that? So I think this work that we started on the 5-year budget or 3-year budget with the finance committee, which, is a work in progress, it'll be an important component of the decisions you're gonna have to make.
Thank you. A couple of,
Jim?
I'm sorry, Jim Hacker. Share with us some key questions that are rumbling around in your mind.
Well, I think you've all said basically what I would say, but I recall the last time we went through this process, I forget how many years ago now, Mike, 5 or 6 years ago, I think. The candidates we were interviewing, I thought, came in 2 different varieties. One was administrative type people, and the other were what I would call rainmakers, those that just make things happen. And I think we struck a good note with that with Mike, because I think he combined both of those characters or characteristics. That's pretty hard to find. I know, coming from the banking world, the banks always took their top rainmakers, I thought, and made them the administrators, and maybe that's not the best way to do it. So anyway, I think Mike's characteristics were ideal for us. I think his contacts in Albany were absolutely essential to the success that we've had in CEDC. And hopefully we could recreate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of questions that have occurred to me that I haven't heard yet. One is, are we hiring someone to perform Mike's duties as they currently exist? Or are we hiring someone to do perform a changing and revolving set of duties? And do we need to keep that in mind as we're preparing a job description and a set of qualifications, and then interviewing candidates? Does our strategic plan accurately describe our mission and our objectives, what we're supposed to be doing? And do we need to update that strategic plan to make sure it's current and it's fresh? For those of you who are on the CEDC board, part of tomorrow's board meeting is going to be focusing on that, discussing that point. Revisit the strategic plan, and do we need to tweak it? Is it fine the way it is? Do we need to completely overhaul it so that we're communicating to candidates for the position exactly what's going to be expected?
And we did a strategic plan in 16, 19, and 22, so 25 is really the time to do the fourth iteration of it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also asking myself, what's Mike's appropriate role in this process?
And I'm about to leave, so that I don't want to have, you need to have an open dialogue, and I appreciate all of your gracious compliments and comments, but I do think there's a chilling effect of the person sitting in the room.
Before you go, from my standpoint, I think a realistic goal for today's meeting is to try to put together a timeline of all the steps that are involved in hiring someone at this level. But the discussion of the timeline in part is dependent on a number of things that are going to require an executive session. Contractual matters and compensation. So what I'd like to recommend, Andy, as long as you think this is appropriate, I'd like to ask for an executive session. Motion,
Oh, thank you.
I'll second.
all those in favor? Lisa Martha Lane made the motion to come out of executive session and was seconded by Rick Cummings.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the committee has discussed the timeline, and even though it's still tentative, we would foresee posting the position sometime in August or September of 2025. There's a lot for us and other CEDC parties to do to prepare to reach that step. We'll need to prepare qualifications and a job description. We had some discussion about the merits of hiring a recruiter. We'll continue discussions about that. We'll need to determine compensation range. So we've got lots to do that we'll be working on between now and the time we post the position. Let's see. Well, let's see if we can schedule another meeting of this group. The executive committee, I believe, is meeting on December 10th. Would it be convenient for those of you who are on the executive committee to piggyback this meeting with that? So the executive committee would meet at 8:30, and this group, the search committee, could meet at 10 o'clock if that's convenient to.
What is that, November?
December 10th.
December.
I do have a hold, I don't know, I have a hold on my calendar for audit committee that
Yeah,
day.
9:30.
At 9:30.
Yeah.
It just says hold, it just says hold the date, it's not scheduled.
Well, you have to have the
We have to have
engagement
it.
letters approved before the end of the year.
Right, that's why we.
It shouldn't be a long meeting.
Probably 10 would work.
10 would work.
Good, let's plan on December 10th at 10 o'clock here at CEDC. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Okay, so thank you very much for being here, and we'll see you on December 10th.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Without objection, so ordered.